peep this, fam. The Democratic Party is in trouble. And the new numbers that were reported in the New York Times show you what that trouble looks like. And apparently, they now, or some of them, believe that Gavin Newsom may be the answer to all their problems. I don't think he is. We'll get into that. But look at the data right now. It's not looking good for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party faces a voter registration crisis. So again, we're talking about those who are registered. We're not talking about the way that people vote, but the way the registration numbers appear right now. Right now, if you look at these two maps here, the blue for Democrat, the red for Republican, as you notice in all of these states here, and they're comparing them to Republican states, Democrat voter registration is down. Republican voter registration is increasing. This goes through 2024. It's not looking good for the Democratic Party. There's no other way that you can, I don't know how else you can describe this, but there's no other way that you can look at this and say, well, maybe it's that. No, that means that people are leaving the Democratic Party. Now, what some may think is that people are leaving the Democratic Party and joining the Republican Party. The numbers don't reflect that. I also wouldn't think that would be the case. There may have been some that have done that, but the majority, no. They are registering as independents. And this is what I was talking about. More people are leaving the Democratic Party and choosing to register as an independent. Hell, I'm living proof of one of those people. I did that after Bernie 2020. I made that move. I said, yeah, bruh. I'm just gonna register as independent. I said, I don't know, bruh. There's some crazy things that are going on. And so they believe that we'll show you the Gavin Newsom stuff, because they believe that Gavin Newsom might be the one to save the day. And as I told you guys before, I just don't believe that politicians are heroes. And I think a lot of the change is going to come from the ground up, not one particular person. But if you look at this here, it says for the first time since 2018, more new voters nationwide chose to be Republicans than Democrats last year. Democrats lost about 2.1 million registered voters between 2020 and 2024 elections. That's a lot of people. That happened within 30 states, along with DC, that allowed people to register with a political party. In the remaining 20 states, voters do not register with the political party. So that's important for people to know. Republicans gained 2.4 million. It just doesn't look good for you if you're in the Democratic Party. Now, there are still more Democrats registered nationwide than Republicans, partly because of big blue states like California that allow people to register by party, while red states like Texas do not. But the trajectory is troublesome for Democrats, and there are growing concerns over what to do about it. Now, some people believe that Gavin Newsom could be the answer to that question. If you guys haven't seen this, he's been trolling Donald Trump recently. And while that does get a lot of attention, I'm going to make sure I bring your attention as well back to his policy positions and the things that Gavin Newsom has done. A lot of people are looking at this and they're saying, well, Gavin Newsom is saying to Donald Trump, this means war. And this is a way to get him out there to prepare America for a possible presidential run in 2028. I'm here to tell you, don't fall for it. Gavin Newsom is corporate, corrupt politician. But this is what is happening right now, folks. Can Gavin Newsom be the one to turn that around?
As the state of California responds to and fights back against the blatant political power grab in Texas with its own redistricting effort, that state's governor, Gavin Newsom, is fighting for a different kind of power in today's political landscape. Attention. Newsom's press office for the past week and a half has been flooding the zone by flooding social media posts with posts that mimic Donald Trump's style and doing what no Democrat has tried for the last 9 years in dealing with Donald Trump, beating Donald Trump at his own game. Since Donald Trump posted a fake Time magazine cover of himself as king, Gavin Newsom's team did the same thing. In one post, Gavin Newsom calls MAGA Republicans, quote, snowflakes in all caps. In another, he says this, quote, Donald is finished. He is no longer hot. First the hands, so tiny, and now me, Gavin C. Newsom, have taken away his step. Many are saying he can't even do the big stairs on Air Force One anymore, uses the little baby stairs now. Sad, referring to a picture of Donald Trump alongside Vladimir Putin. He just wrote, vaxxed, and Newsom has already captured the visual style of the quintessential Trump post. There's the retweet of buff Gavin Newsom holding an American flag, or maybe.
And again, these types of things, they're going to get a lot of attention, right? So Gavin Newsom is basically trolling Donald Trump. He's like, okay, you did these, posts. Now I'm going to make posts to mimic the posts that you have, etc. But does that actually transfer into votes for a presidential election? One is 2025 presidential election. The next one is 2028. And two, I think because Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, I think that's actually going to hurt him in a number of ways. I don't know. People are leaving your state. They're not coming to your state. People may come to visit, but people who live there are fleeing California. California is having a mass exodus. We'll get into that as well. Let's go on a little bit more here.
The real winner, a portrait of himself surrounded by Kid Rock, Tucker Carlson, and Hulk Hogan. Newsom's social media campaign is clearly getting under the skin of many on the right.
I don't know what he's trying to do, but it comes across as childish. And you're the governor of the biggest state in the union. What are you doing?
This is a sitting governor. Those are Congress people. And it feels like we're watching a summer camp skit. We're watching slam poetry. We're watching these attention seekers that are just so wrapped up in clickbait, and they are supposed to be governing.
Hypocrisy is dying a sad and tragic death right now. Save the anchors from the network that paid $800 million for their lies. Now, if the hypocrisy in all of this isn't clear enough, if it doesn't smack you on the side of the head, here's what podcaster and radio host Charlamagne the God had to say about Fox News' reaction there.
Okay, we don't need to get into the whole Charlamagne thing as well. You guys know how Breakfast Club does the copyright thing and all that stuff. But here's another one here that I want to show you guys. It's hilarious that Gavin Newsom is simply holding up a mirror to the Republican Party and they're losing their shit. The trolling is giving me life. This one. So here's Gavin Newsom with the ketchup bottle. So he's mimicking the Donald Trump assassination attempt. So like I said, it's giving a lot of people are paying attention to it. So I don't know if Gavin Newsom paired up with Gen Z, I don't know, Gen Z, or maybe college kids and said, hey, how can the best way to do this? I don't know. It does get a lot of attention. That is true. But I don't want you to see those things and to think that Gavin Newsom is a totally different politician. Now, obviously, he wouldn't do some of the things that Donald Trump did, but he's not going to go all the way in the other direction either. Gavin Newsom is corporate. Gavin Newsom is very corrupt. Gavin Newsom had a recall. Does everybody remember this? There was a recall against Gavin Newsom. The reason being is because he implemented policies during the pandemic towards the California residents that he himself didn't even follow. While everybody else was under lockdowns and Gavin Newsom was going out to eat at, I believe the name of this restaurant is the French Laundry, and everybody else had to stay inside. So that's why he had a recall. Now he was able to beat it, but you got to understand, he's backed by a lot of big money and also powerful connections. He's related to Nancy Pelosi. So if Gavin Newsom were to run for president and were to win, this continues that Nancy Pelosi dynasty. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that he's related to her by marriage. I continue to repeat this to people. And then next thing you know, because the next step is for her daughter to get her seat. They keep it in the family. Keep it in the family, right? So he went on to this podcast, Gavin Newsom. If we do not act, democracy will slip through our hands. Okay, we don't really have real democracy, but whatever. But look who's on the podcast. You have Harry Sisson, right? The guy who was making the paid influencer, who was making those videos for Kamala and, well, first Biden and then later Kamala. These are all paid influencers. That's who these people are. They're paid influencers for the Democratic Party. So that being said, do you think they're going to give Gavin Newsom a tough interview? No, that's why he's there. So listen to this part.
Jump in. We are incredibly honored to be joined on the Siren Podcast by the governor of California, Governor Gavin Newsom. Welcome to the Siren Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I mean, you're making some news. You're a very busy man. So let's just jump right on in. Can you please explain to our audience, what you're doing in the state of California regarding the potential redistricting of your congressional maps and why this may be something you have to do?
Well, we're fighting fire with fire. We don't want to do this, but to your point, your question rather, we have to do it at peril, being judged not only not to have lived, but to be judged watching democracy slip from right on underneath us. The reality is it's not just Texas that Donald Trump believes he's entitled to 5 congressional seats. He has sent his vice president to Indiana. He's making the case not just to what's going on up in Ohio, but Florida, Missouri, and other states. I imagine it's just the beginning. What, as we speak, is occurring in real time in Texas. And so my mindset, our mindset here in California, is one of accountability, responsibility. We have agency. We're not bystanders. We can shape the future. And by taking some responsibility and moving assertively, as we have with the California legislature that just yesterday introduced a special election, a constitutional amendment that will in essence nullify the 5 votes that they claim to be picking up in Texas by asking the voters in a transparent and temporary way to make a determination for themselves to change our maps mid-decade in response to what occurred in Texas on November 4th.
So imagine talking about democracy will slip through our hands, but you're also participating in redistricting, right? Like, what did I tell you guys? Both parties do that. Both parties redistrict. Democratic Party and Republican Party do it. And here they are talking about democracy. And the voters have no say. So he went on to that show, right? I thought that was interesting that he went on to that show. Yet somehow, and shout out to friend of the show, Roger Meadows, he sent me this. Apparently, he wouldn't go on to Breaking Points. He went on to the show with the paid Dem influencers, but he wouldn't go on to Breaking Points. And apparently, according to what Crystal and Sagar said here, it wasn't because of the interview that they had with Alyssa Slotkin. Apparently, they reached out to him prior to that. They've been trying to get him on the show. So listen to this. While everyone's laughing at the memes, I just want to remind you, Gavin Newsom trying to run and duck and hide because he don't want to have tough questions.
The thing that Gavin is benefiting from right now, too, is that he doesn't really have to answer any difficult questions on things that would be challenging for him. So, yeah, immigration will be one of those things. But I think more critically right now is where he stands on Israel and Gaza. The things that he has said to date are not good. But he has never put himself in a position where he is going to be specifically pressed on that issue. And
on that issue, yeah, it's not. That's another one. And that will come up. This whole issue with Israel and Gaza. So Gavin Newsom, the guy who's sending out all these trolling memes in response to Donald Trump, doesn't even want to go on to media shows where they are going to ask him tough questions. So it just tells you this again. A meme is just a meme. A meme is just a meme. If you can't even answer tough questions, but you want to be president. So hear this part.
A little behind the scenes, we've been trying for quite a while now to get an interview with Mr. Newsom.
I have a new lead on that, by the way.
Do you?
It's just happened like recently.
Well,
yeah.
So in any case, he follows me on Twitter. I reached out to them that way. We reached out through the press office. We got, specific, no, he's not interested in both instances. And he's been going out and doing lots of Brian Tyler, like all kinds of online media, but he doesn't want to come here. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's because he does not want.
I think it's because of Slotkin.
He does. I don't even, because the first time we reached out was pre-Slotkin.
That's a good point.
But he's smart enough to know that like if you just look at our channel, obviously Israel-Palestine is a focus of concern for us and interest, and he's not going to get through an interview without getting asked really specific questions that he has no good answer for. But at some point, he's going to have to answer those questions, and it's going to cause him to have to, you know, either divide with the donor base that has been his key to power in California for years and years, or he's going to divide with where the grassroots of the, not just the grassroots, the entirety of the Democratic Party base is at this point. So, you know, there is some treacherous road ahead of him. And there's also, so we'll see. We'll see with him how that goes, where he ends up. To me, that's sort of the biggest trouble area for him. But there's no doubt the Democratic base is absolutely loving seeing someone show some sort of life, because it's
because Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are not. That's just the reality. But notice what she said. They have been trying to get Gavin Newsom to come onto the show. And I do think the Israel-Gaza thing, that is probably one of the issues. It's interesting. Gavin Newsom follows Crystal, but for whatever reason, he's not made his way like onto the show or whatever. Again, just does not want to have those tough questions. Also, sometimes people follow you on social media to see what you're up to, not necessarily because they may agree with you, but to see like, oh, what are they doing? Let me see. What's going on over there? So that's something to take into consideration, but it's really interesting. So pay attention to those types of things, right? Like what's happening there with Gavin Newsom. So there's the Israel-Gaza thing, which obviously we know is an issue, but there's other problems that Gavin needs to deal with. In particular, as governor of California, and I showed this to you guys before, the fact that California has the highest housing wage in the United States, that's not a laughable matter, right? That's something that Gavin Newsom needs to deal with, where you need to make $49.61 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental. People are not saying, let's move to California. Maybe some people want to, but they can't really afford it. People are leaving California. They've been leaving California for years. We used to call it the California exit, as people are like, I am getting the hell up out of here. And they leave California and they move to states like Texas or Florida. They move to states where there's a lower cost of living. They move to a state where they might be able to buy a home. Can you imagine that? You know, people I know that I've met that grew up in California basically told me it's not this idea of one day that I'll buy a house in California because it's just unrealistic. Isn't that ridiculous? Highest housing wage, the homelessness crisis in California. Gavin Newsom also been a part of that, right? Like I remember we were covering this, maybe it was, I think last year or the year before, where Gavin Newsom was removing the homeless encampments. Well, where do those people go? And how does it even get to that point where all those people are homeless in California? There have been a number of things that I've followed where some of the people who were homeless in California, these were people who had jobs, but they, you know, either lost their job or were in between a job or they got evicted for whatever it meant. You know, a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck, but also because California has the highest housing wage. It's not just LA. It's not just San Francisco. And no, it's not just California, but I'm just looking at all these things and they're not adding up, right? And I can see people already starting to send their brains back to sleep and say, well, Gavin Newsom's out there and he's a fighter. No, Gavin Newsom is just having a couple of memes. He's doing like a meme war, right? Like this means war. But on the ground and politically in California, his state is in trouble. And he's the governor. And when I look at the homeless issue, this is exactly right. Power to the people. Gavin Newsom is the blue version of Donald Trump, but even more dangerous because liberals and the media look the other way when Democrats sell out our communities and implement fascist policies. And it's true. If you put Gavin Newsom's face on the character and the character says, I hate homeless people, the receptionist says, oh, you're sweet. But if you put Donald Trump's face on that character and it says, I hate homeless people, The receptionist says, hello, human resources. And this is what people are doing right now. Gavin Newsom don't like homeless people either. That's why he kicked them out. That's why he took up the encampments. There's video footage of him doing it himself. Where do these people go? How does your state get like this? Don't get me wrong, there's homeless people everywhere, but damn. You got to take a look at this at one point. Right? So this is my fear, that people see Gavin Newsom memeing Donald Trump, and then they just go back to sleep and say, hey, Gavin's out there and he's going to fight against the people. But I want to remind you of some things. It was just a little over a year ago, that it was Gavin Newsom who was the one who vetoed key parts of the reparations package in California. I don't want people to forget this and how this went wrong. Don't forget, those activists had the number of votes that they needed from the California legislature, from the state legislators. They already had the votes. That's why they went forward with it. What happens? Gavin Newsom comes in to strike it down. But he was willing to do all these other things for other people. He was willing to implement policies in California to help other groups of people. But when it came to the Black Americans, he said, no, we can't be helping you. No. California governor rejects bill that would have helped Black families reclaim or be compensated for land taken unjustly. Gavin Newsom steps in to block it. And they had the votes. So we're looking at a state like California, which is expensive, highest housing wage, high homelessness rate. People are exiting your state. You're having a mass exodus in California. It's been that way for years. And you want to be president of the United States? You blocked the reparations package from the activists in California, but you want the Black vote? See, because I don't forget. And apparently Blakely doesn't forget either. I thought this was pretty funny. She made this video. You guys have got to check this out.
Stop trying to make Gavin Newsom happen. Stop trying to make Gavin Newsom happen. It's not going to happen. Yes, his office, it's not even him. It's like his hired interns or whatever are writing some really funny bangers on Twitter under his press office. Yeah, that's funny. It's great. They're trolling Trump using his own tactics. I enjoy it. We all can enjoy it. That doesn't mean he should be president. Like, first of all, it's already ridiculous because it's way too fucking early. And people are, don't criticize him. But second of all, absolutely not. I know you bitches love to just do more cowbell every time the Democrats fail, but Gavin Newsom, along with all the other bad Obama impersonators, is a terrible governor and would be a terrible president. He is nothing more than your typical fucking neoliberal doing the same shit that all the other failure of Democrats have been doing for the last 40 years. Just because a couple of his interns are doing some funny trolling of Trump doesn't mean he would be a good president. And it's actually so embarrassing the way that some of your standards are in hell. Like, he just comes out and is like, all right, maybe I might pretend like I'm fighting back against the Trump administration because I know I want to run for president. And all of you are like, oh my gosh, he's the answer. It's just like the ongoing refusal to ever learn a fucking lesson.
Yeah, it's true. And it's so funny. It's like all it takes is for a couple of memes to get people right back into the habit of trusting these corporate corrupt politicians. This is wild. It's wild. It's wild. So does this mean war? In Gavin Newsom's mind, yes. I see a lot of people cheering it on. Like all of a sudden people just forgot that how corrupt and corporate Gavin Newsom is. Just like that, because you saw a couple of memes with him trolling Donald Trump. That has nothing to do with the way that he would govern. Never forget that. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.